The most important legacy of the rabbis is their literature. They left us two kinds of literature. One explicates the written tradition or the written revelation. The other can be seen as an explication of the oral tradition. So to start with the first one is known as Midrash. Midrash comes from a Hebrew root, drash, which means seeking. And ultimately it means seeking the will of God in the text of Scripture. Midrash looks strange to a modern reader because of its assumptions about the text. So it assumes, for example, that the text of the Tanakh, this really messy, repetitive, sometimes contradictory text, actually is perfect. So every time one sees what you might think of as a problem in the Tanakh, what you're really seeing is a sign from God that this is something to be interpreted. It's intentional. It has meaning. So it's supposed to alert one to a message. Give one example for Midrash. Would be the kashrut, or Jewish law of eating. So with kashrut, parts of it are very clear. It tells you which animals you can eat and which animals you can't eat. There is, though, this half a phrase that occurs 3 times in the Torah. Do not boil a kid in its mother's milk. It occurs in no context. It doesn't tell you what it means. It doesn't tell you why. Now, what does it mean that it's there 3 times? That's the thing that the rabbis pick up on. And they say 3 times must mean that it doesn't just mean don't take a kid and boil in its mother's milk, but have a much more expansive meaning. That expansive meaning becomes an entire set of rules separating meat products and dairy products and utensils and dishes used for meat products from utensils and dishes used from dairy products. So that all comes out of this 3-fold repetition in the Torah, which the rabbis assume must be significant. So Midrash is one way of reading. Frequently, it's used to determine Jewish law from the text of the Torah, but not only. Sometimes it's used for homiletical purposes, for certain kinds of messages or moral lessons. So that's one kind of literature. The other kind of literature, and the literature dealing with the oral tradition, is that which we might call the literature of the Talmud. There are actually 2 Talmuds. One was formed in Palestine, which is the Roman name for the land of Israel. Probably about 400 of the Common Era was when it was redacted, and the other was redacted in Babylonia, probably around the year 600 or so. The Talmuds are both explications of the Mishnah. They seek to understand what the Mishnah is saying, to get at its causes, to see how the Mishnah is rooted in the oral tradition. The Babylonian Talmud is the Talmud that, in a sense, wins. It's the one that's seen as authoritative, unlike the Palestinian Talmud, which is used almost solely by academics. It has very little role within the Jewish community today. But the Babylonian Talmud is marked by a particular kind of voice. So it's not just a repository of previous discussions, of laws, of traditions, but it's dialectical. It doesn't often give answers. Rather, it seeks to understand causes, to see how one thing coheres with another thing, or doesn't cohere, how to reconcile or harmonize different parts. But it's not, in any sense, a book of laws, although it does have some laws. The Midrash and the Talmud are the lenses through which the Jewish tradition, written, oral, are refracted. They provide a vision of Judaism that is foundational to the present day.